Okay, Natasha, I know your story pretty well. It's extremely similar to mine, but for our listeners who may not have heard it, can you talk to us about your background?
My background. I grew up in Vegas, one of 8 kids, third oldest, 5 girls, 3 boys. So I've always said I just want mostly boys. If I get one girl, I'm dead. That hormones, I'm getting the hormones. And just grew up in a really religious home and didn't hate it, but just didn't have any open-minded talks. It was all just, this is what it is, heaven or hell. And then once I went to college, that's when I was exposed to a lot of different beliefs. Well, I guess to backtrack, grew up with multiple fathers, lots of abuse, but still was a happy child. And as I'm trying to like condense it all into like a quick thing.
We have time.
Yeah, I talked about it on Kyle's podcast, but lost my real dad when I was about 2 to suicide. Second father molested me for years. A third father was the best father, but was still like very angry, really bad temper, so you just like walking on eggshells. Would leave a lot, so there's like, obviously I had to deal with a lot of like abandonment issues and fears there, but dealt with eating disorders through high school and college, and it really wasn't until I met Kyle that all of that stuff began to really heal. And like obviously growing up in church and they're like, give it to God and pray and be healed, and I just never felt completely healed from it because I was also not really going inside and working on it and working through the pain and confronting it. But once he introduced me to plant medicine, and he hadn't even done like ayahuasca at that point, we hadn't even heard of it, but just invited me to go do a sweat with him, which was how he actually started all of his fight camps, was going and doing a sweat in the woods on mushrooms. And I never even smoked weed. Like,
wow.
I tried, like, I was like, oh, I drank a little in college, but it just never was, like, alcohol's never been my thing. Like, it's always been like, I hate the taste, I'm not going to force myself to do this. But for some reason, mushrooms were always, like, interesting, even though I'd only heard, like, horror stories, like, really bad stories about people, like, I thought I was dead and I was in hell, but still I was like, that's interesting, I don't know. And so I agreed to go, and that just kind of changed. That's what really started the change for me, and like really healing, and just changing my mindset, more open-minded, and really experiencing God's love for the first time was through that.
That's it.
I don't know.
So growing up, you had 8 siblings. Where did you guys all stay together? Did you end up in different places?
Yeah, so the 5 of us are blood related and 3 are step siblings from the third dad. But we were all living together for 11 years.
Okay.
But now everyone lives everywhere. I have an older sister in Hawaii, a younger sister in Alaska, 2 siblings in Vegas, and then the 3 step siblings all live in Colorado. And then my mom is just like a floater. She goes on like missions trips. So right now she's in Guatemala for a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is really nice because she just found out that we're in an open relationship, and she can only message me through
it's
WhatsApp.
all over the internet.
Yeah, that was it. Like, it's all over. I'm like, really? Oh, I'm seeing
Let
a jump in my
sponsor it.
heart. But it's perfect because I've wanted to have that conversation with her. I've always been an open book with my family, knowing very well that they were going to be freaked out, like drugs, and in the woods, and what are you doing, a heathen? Yeah. But my stance is always, I want you to know me, and I know it's scary, but I want you to know me versus like not knowing me.
Yeah.
So
pretending.
Yeah, and just I think in the beginning everyone was freaking out about the psychedelics, but then the shift they saw in me and how I handled them and dealt with chaos and fights and just everything, just how I changed, and now they don't worry about it. Yeah.
So when you and we're going to get more into like I think the open relationship stuff and like how that's worked its way into your life and what all that experience has been so far, but just to kind of get an idea of who you are now, because you've had this like long journey, what are the moments that stick out to you as like your biggest obstacles so far? Maybe we'll start there.
Biggest obstacles, I think just like loving myself and also living my life not in fear. For probably majority of my life I lived in fear of like what I was doing, and what I wanted to do, and then feeling guilty or feeling like I was bad and I needed to repent. So it was, and just never feeling like I was enough, like I was good enough or doing enough. And like I said, I had eating disorders in high school and in college that lasted for years, and that just I didn't love myself, and I was so consumed with looking a certain way or being the best athlete instead of just loving myself for the way I was. Self-love, and then a big one was becoming a parent. I had a lot of, when I first saw visions of becoming, that I was like, I saw Kyle like holding a baby, and I was like, oh, okay, but we'd been like, yeah, we want kids, but we weren't like, let's have kids. So I saw these visions, and I was like, oh shit, okay. But then it like, that also came with so many fears of, okay, you have a kid, and I know I'll be a great mother, but the world we live in is scary, and I'm terrified to bring a kid into the world, and I'm like, what if I can't protect my kid? Like, I had friends sleep over at my house when I was young, and my dad would molest me while I was laying next to my friend. So just thinking in, like, I would just have these, pictures and stories playing in my head, and also feeling like I didn't have a super, my mom wasn't, she loves me, I know that, she loves me, but she wasn't like physically affectionate. I never remember my mom like holding me, snuggling me, kissing me, saying I love you. Like, she just wasn't that way. And so just wondering, like, am I gonna be, like that with my kids? Like, I feel like I'm gonna be doing this completely,
and
like,
does any
I
of
don't
your
know what
mother
I'm
ever
doing.
come out of you when you're parenting, do you feel?
Not really.
No?
No. Like, she was really good at, like, getting us in nature. Like, I have photos of me as, like, a baby out, like, hiking in the mountains.
With
and,
your
like,
pets,
so,
yeah.
yeah. But she was always really good about us being active and being outside. And she didn't really, like, play with us. Like, we play with Bear a lot. But, and then just through more ceremonies, it was like, well, what kind of parent do I want to be?
Yeah.
What kind of parent would I have wanted? And then doing that. But I think,
when you became a mother, did you become more triggered by your mother for the things that you felt she didn't give you, like the physical affection?
Yeah, because when you are taking care of your kid, or when you're playing with your kid or holding your kid, and just thinking back to like the things, even like the discipline, how she disciplined me, which is why I'm completely opposite from her and how she disciplines. Like, don't spank, and she'll even, when she's around, she'll be like, oh, looks like someone can use a spanking. Or just like, okay, well, that's fine, that's your opinion, but I wouldn't put a bar of soap in his mouth and like get it on his teeth, like you said, crap. There was just a lot of things that was like, that wasn't
about me.
Yeah. I see, like, I understand, and through ceremonies I had a lot of understanding of why she was the way she was. Super protective, couldn't watch Little Mermaid because the seashells. She was like overly sexual, but I get it. I don't, like, I can put myself in her shoes and say, okay, my kids were molested, overexposed to sexual things, so now I'm going to like cut everything out that's has even anything close to being sexual. But in the end, it doesn't really work. Then when you block out this thing, it's like, then you're like, oh, I'm super curious about this stuff. But I was still really good. Like, I didn't have my first boyfriend until I was 21. First kiss, first sexual experience at 21. Like, I was, and then even drinking. Like, I didn't drink, I didn't party. Even when I was a go-go dancer and worked at the Playboy Club in Vegas, I didn't go out partying. I didn't drink. I was very responsible. But yeah, I feel like I'm completely opposite from a lot of things. I'm trying to think if there's anything. I think more in terms of like relationship, how I was with Kyle in the beginning of our relationship. I was doing a lot of things my mom did. Like, if her and my stepdad were fighting, she was completely silent. It was like silent treatment for like forever. Wouldn't talk, wouldn't even like the communication was so bad. And that's how I was. I was like the master at not talking and giving you the silent treatment, and I could go days with like holding this thing against him. And then it was just kind of clicked, and I was like, this is miserable. Like, I love him. This isn't like a end the relationship kind of thing. So, and I don't sleep. Like, if we ever have gone to bed mad, I don't sleep. So it's like, it's not, let's talk about it for like, we just have a couple hours, let's work through it. Yeah, like, I'm just like, and then you wake up even more mad. It's still sitting there. And most of the time, it's not a big deal. Whatever you're fighting about, it's usually something super small and stupid. So, yeah.
That's a lot. I'm like, let's take a deep breath. I feel like a lot of people will probably be asking the conclusion to this part of your life early on when you were around a man who was, violating you this way, and your mom found out or believed your sister, was it? And so tell us, like, how that panned out, because I know at least he went to prison, right?
Yes. Yeah, so he went to jail we were in public school. My mom pulled us in and homeschooled us. So I only went to school up to 2nd grade, and then I was homeschooled all the way up until high school. There was never a time that I remember, even because when it was happening, I didn't understand, like, it was bad. Like, I knew I didn't like it, but I never understood, like, because it just started when I was so young. So it was just, this happened. And I was still really happy, and I was still, like, we went to counseling, and I hated that. But also, you know, you're a kid, and it was like group counseling, so we were in there with like other kids, and it was hard because a lot of times in church and even in those counseling sessions, they were so pushing forgiving and forgiving and forgiving, and like, I was just like, I don't want to, I'm happy he's in jail, and but I think that was a big reason for my anorexia in high school, as well as being a competitive runner. Like, it just kind of was the catalyst for like the chaos of just my entire childhood. New stepdad, who was a good dad, like I said, but like just his anger and they're fighting all the time, and it was my way of feeling like I had control of something. Like, I didn't feel I can control what you can't make me. And then just running so much, it just kind of went hand in hand.
Do you think your mom didn't realize what was going on at first because she was busy, or what was the situation on that end? Did you have
with the anorexia or with the abuse? With
both, I guess, just anything that you were going through. Because you said she wasn't as affectionate, or was it a presence thing, you feel like? Because now you're a mom, so I'm going to tie these pieces
so her parents, my grandparents, were not really that present with her and her sister. They were also not big physically affectionate people, and they weren't supportive of what my mom wanted to do. She was also a really, really good runner, and just was never supported. She was like invited to go to some big race, and they wouldn't take her. It was just not important. And but they were like, we'll buy you whatever you want. What do you want? You want a pony? We'll buy you a pony. So it was like she had everything she wanted, but she just never had like the physical love and the, just conversations even. And so, and she's even acknowledged this in the last like year. Like, I wish I had been more physically loving to you guys. And just her acknowledging that, because it's something I've always been like, I don't want to like be like, I feel like that's a mean thing to say, like, you never hugged me. But like, it was something that I felt like I really wanted to talk about and connect with her on, because even now when she comes over, I give her really long, uncomfortably long hugs, just to be like, no, you're not done yet. I'm just gonna make you hug me, because she's so like, it's not comfortable to her. But just her acknowledging that. But it's funny because she said all that, and then like you want to snuggle, like there's like, it's like still the same, but it's okay. Like, just her acknowledging it was huge. So I think that is, I can see where she just didn't know. She became a mom at 18 years old and was just like doing like, and then she had 3 of us by the time she was 22. And my dad was in the Navy, so he was gone a lot. So she was just tired mom, and just never had that growing up herself. But yeah.
So then here we are now. You've met Kyle, and I guess we're fast forwarding over a bunch of stuff. But you meet Kyle, and he introduces you to the sweat lodge and this like ritualistic practice of using plant medicine to kind of explore deeper into stuff that you didn't want to look at as a young person. And that starts opening up for you. And what are the first things you remember, like going where it clicked, like, this is gonna be the door that I walk through in order to heal this stuff in me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was definitely the first ceremony, because going into it, and like Kyle didn't even think, because I talked about my ceremony on Kyle's podcast, but like I didn't even think that was something that's going to come up, because to me it was like, I just never talked about it to Kyle. Like, he knew about it, but it wasn't something that like, oh, Father's Day comes around and I'm sad, or this like, I'm triggered, I'm sad, I'm feeling. I just never, it was like, I dealt with it, I'm good, I'm happy, my life is just going to get better, and I'm with a great guy. So when that first ceremony happened, and I spent the day with my dad, and just how healing and how much release I had that I didn't even know was there, but like just that release that first one was what like hooked me for sure.
Yeah, and just for the listeners, you mean, you know, you had a vision essentially of your dad coming back to you as a bear, and you got to connect with him through the plant medicine, just so that they're caught up to speed on that too. And in that, you kind of were opened up to like, there's more here I need to look at, and I need to really dig into what's going on underneath the surface.
Yeah, and it was just even maybe a year and a half ago, Kyle and I were doing a ceremony at home together on mushrooms, and it's like you can have this deep ceremony where you're like, so that little part of my life is covered. Okay, what's next? And then, but it was like, then a whole different side of that came up, and I was like in the truck with my father, looking like we were staring at each other while he had the gun in his mouth, and just like having a conversation with him, and just seeing it, and crying for him, and like going through the, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, because all of those things are lessons I've got from him. And I'm sorry in terms, like, what I feel sorry for is that, like, he didn't have the tools, he didn't have the support, he didn't have, or didn't feel like he had it, and that was the one thing, that's what he thought it had to come to. So just feeling like sorry, but also having gratitude, because there's so many lessons in what he did, and
that's a tough, I noticed Jade is super quiet, and so I'm going to just say, where does this relate to your story? Because I feel like, I know you guys have a very similar, you know, the upbringing, but you have a very similar or parallel story in a lot of ways. So maybe because you guys are such close friends, I know there's like a lot of emotion in you when it comes to Natasha. I mean, obviously, like even in just reading your bio, that comes out, but what are the places that you feel like when you connected with her, even maybe originally, you were like, wow, this is like a soul sister for me?
I don't know that it had to do with her childhood, really. Can you rephrase it, the question?
just trying to understand your guys' connection too, because this is, you know, it's rare on this show we get to interview somebody who's so close to one of us, right? We usually are just interviewing someone who wrote this book, or someone, you know, some expert in this thing or the other, and you happen to be one of Jade's very closest friends, so I'm sure there's a lot there, that there's some connection that maybe over time you guys have figured out, like, wow, these are maybe the wounds we're healing for each other in our relationship, or maybe the reasons you bonded over, or a story that you saw in her, or a story she saw in you that was like, hey, you'll get me and I get you, you know?
Do you have an answer?
I think, well, we first bonded and became friends when I posted that I was pregnant, and then you messaged me, because we'd also, like, people have been like, I think you would really like Jade, and but we never, like, met each other. And then you wrote me and said, oh my gosh, you're pregnant, me too. And it was like, we're the first ring girls that are babies. And then when I posted that we were naming him Paul Kingsbury, you're like, I'm naming my son Saul. So they have that little, like, little friend connection there. But then in just talking about our pregnancies and what we were eating and the kind of birth plan we wanted, it was just kind of like just a lot of similarities and just mindset and beliefs. And then it was just crazy that we ended up moving here and we live here, so it's like, yes.
But I've seen there's so many synchronicities there, and then you also
there's a lot of synchronicities for sure.
You and Natasha and Kyle, you guys both introduced me to medicine, so I mean, like, there's so much there that is like meant to be, you know, or however you want to look at that. But I don't know, maybe it's just something you haven't really thought about, how this person worked her way into your life and you into hers. But I don't know. I think there's something, like when I'm sitting here with you both, it almost feels like there's a different, like, you're a different person right now. Like, you're in a negative way, but just you're like, I know you want me to talk to her in a sense because you know her story. Maybe you feel like it's too intimate the way you know her story, so you can't relay it for the listeners, but I don't know, if something comes up.
I think a thing that is super similar is that we've both been through horrific pain and tragedy in our childhood, but we've both ended up being very strong women who continue to work and continue to not be, like, we're not victims, we're not, you know, we can take ownership of it and have, you know, it's nice to have a support system, and to have a girlfriend who really can relate on so many things.
I mean, I know what draws me to Natasha. I just don't know your question. For some reason, your question's really confusing me. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I'm in interview mode and I wasn't being prepared to be interviewed. But I know what draws me to her, and I know the similarities, and I know, like, before we were even doing plant medicine and mothers, we were told, do you know Natasha? Do you know Jade? Because with photographers that shot us, because they felt like we were so similar. And then even a guy that just met her the other day was like, y'all both have the same grounding, but y'all have both been through such similar things, and it's really sexy. And then I was like, what do you think? You're like, he's shy. He was just there observing, that's why. But yeah, so.
Yeah, that makes sense. Similar energy, or maybe like almost twin energy, I want to say, or like you guys.
But we're very different. Natasha's really good at boundaries and I guess asking for what you need, which is also a boundary. She's also, I don't want to get too far. We've only asked one question and I don't want to skip across the other questions because I will if I go into it. So I'll get there.
Okay. So with all though that you did experience, especially like early in life and then through other relationships that you had with actual intimate, lovers and such, we've heard your story on Kyle's show, so we know like there's a lot of turbulence, of course, you told us here today, but what or how did you get to a place where you felt like you could trust Kyle, when you finally found this guy you decided to connect with?
Meeting him on the tour for the troops and the fact that he had a girlfriend when we met of like 6 years, because when I got into the UFC I was like, I'm not sleeping with anybody. Like I would just see, like I'd meet these guys like fighters in the vans. That guy's great. They were and like we're still friends. I'm still friends with it's Kyle and one other one. But
by the way, I thought that if you shared a lover, you were called Scissor Sisters. So I had told people for a while that we were Scissor Sisters.
Oh my God! Great, hey.
What is it called though? It's
Eskimo Sisters. Or
I've never heard that, but we are.
So we're Scissor Sisters. We can do that one. There we go.
That's better.
So I don't know who on it. That's that.
That's so great. Because that's like people ask all the time. Oh, is Jade in the mix?
Oh, I get
yeah.
But from people I don't know on Instagram, they're like, I just really think that you're the girl that should be Kyle's, and then it could be y'all four. Like, y'all all just love each other so much, and I could tell in the episode that you just love him, and I just think that you just don't realize it yet. That's what I get messages from strangers, complete strangers.
Yeah,
all the time.
And like, it's all gonna happen organically.
Which is sweet of them. It's sweet of them.
It would be an organic thing, but like,
I just need to catch y'all.
We're not on those questions yet.
You're on a podcast, right? Like nobody knows what the fuck you're talking about. So
it'll make sense.
No, let me just give them a little groundwork here. Natasha's married to Kyle Kingsbury, who we had on the Magic Hour a little while back, so you can listen back to his episode, talk all about their open relationship. And Jade has been friends with these people for a very long time. So now we have Natasha here, who will share all.
Who's not my scissor sister.
Who's not our scissor sister, but is her Eskimo sister, apparently. Not with Kyle yet. I don't know what to say.
Anyhow.
I'll leave it up to the imagination.
How did you learn to trust Kyle?
Okay, so we were on the tour for the troops, and he easily could have been a scumbag and flirting and cheating, and there were, like, opportunity was there. And he wasn't. He was totally faithful, really good.
Because he was in a relationship.
In a relationship, and like I said, he very easily could have. It was propositioned, not by me, but I'm just gonna leave it there.
Okay.
And so, but like also, we just had a good we connected, and he was so funny. I was laughing my ass off for 18 days. And he was really, I remember coming back from that trip and being like, that Kyle Kingsbury guy was awesome. I think we'll be friends forever. Aww. And then, like, flash forward about a year later, we had kept in touch, and I was actually going to go stay with his girl and him to go when I was going to go race in San Francisco, and it just didn't end up happening. But he contacted me and was like, hey, are you going on the next tour? And I was like, no. And like, oh, bummer. Well, I was going to fill you guys in, but me and Kristen broke up. And I was like, ooh. Yeah. And then it was just like, like I just pounced on him for that.
Here.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And like literally, we started dating in November 2011, and I moved out.
Your first date, right?
On our first weekend, we went out after he fought. We went out to. I mean, it was more of a joke than something like we're together forever. Yeah. Like it was Bader. Bader was like, let's all get tattoos, and I was like, I'll only get a camel on my toe, like joking. He was like, that's a great idea. And so him and Kyle got moose. Like a moose animal on their knuckles, and then I got a little camel on my toe. That's our. And mine doesn't even look like a camel. It's the lamest. It looked like no one ever like. They're like, what does the number 2 symbolize, or what is that blurb on? I'm like, it looks like they dropped ink on my foot.
On one of mine.
Yeah, you should. I like it. And then I moved out in February and lived with him in California, and we've been together. 3 months in. Definitely looking back, I was like, wow, like he was with her for 6 years. Did you just feel like you knew and you? Yeah, and I've always been very much a free spirit, and like let's see. It doesn't hurt to try, and we enjoy each other's company. I don't like the long distance thing. Nothing was holding me to Vegas, so I just I really trusted who he was. He's just a very gentle, kind person, and definitely not a playboy. Like, even though we're open, like, there's been times, like, when he goes, like, he travels and he's allowed to, like, if he wants to meet up with somebody or do something like that. But he was in New York, and he was like, yeah, I got on Bumble, and, like, girls were liking my stuff, and he was like, then I just felt creepy, and it felt weird, and I didn't like it, and I'm like, I'm basically, like, his best wingman.
Yeah.
Like, he really needs my help to, like I'll be like, who is it? Like, you want that? Okay, let me, like, talk to this person. Like, his first girlfriend, I facilitated the whole thing. I made that happen. But I think because we had the friend base, and that's always been really important to me, is having that, like,
friends first thing.
Yeah, and because we were friends first, and he had a girlfriend, he'd be like, who are you dating now? And I'd talk about the guy, like, send me a picture, and then he'd make fun of the guy. And but, like, we always had an open conversation about relationships, about sex. It was never weird. So going into our relationship, there was no, who are you? Or, like, there was no triggers when we would talk about past relationships or experiences.
Yeah, that's huge. Did you find triggers along the way other than that, though?
Not really. No. Like, even when we would go out, if people were hitting on him or people were hitting on me, like, we were both always very, yes, please let my partner know. And this is before we had, like, talked about being open, but please let them know I'm not the only person that, like, it feels good. Flirting is fun. It's harmless. Like, I'm going home with him. So we always we're very comfortable with that. And I actually dated, like, an open relationship person before I met him. After my last serious relationship before him ended literally right before I got the UFC job.
Yeah, especially because I know the guy.
And then
you do too. I'll tell you after.
And then I was like, I had fallen in love with this guy, broke my, like, I'd been cheated on many times, and it was like, whatever, I'm not even sad, you're missing out, I know my worth. But this guy, I fell in love with him. It was, like, magical first year, no fighting, super easy, and then found out he would, like, cheat on me. So it was, like, crushing, and then I swore after that, I was like, I will never be in a serious relationship again unless it's, like, you've got all of, it's perfect, like, everything that I want, experience, like, I'm going to be very picky. And so when I would date, I would tell the guy, like, we can date, we can play around, but I'm not exclusive. And if you're okay with that, then we can continue moving forward. If you're not, then we're not even gonna go there, because I am a free bird.
I am a free bird. Is it like making a list of what that person has to add up to? What was the protocol?
I didn't really have, like, a list on paper. It was more of just thinking about the things that were important to me. Just somebody who was happy, was, like, fun, was a hard worker, was motivated, had goals. The looks department, I never had, like, this is my type. Healthy and active is my type. So, like, I'm not gonna do lazy. I'm not gonna do, you want to eat fast food all the time. I love going to movies. I love doing the lazy stuff, but majority of the time we're active. And you start letting your shit go. No, like, I take good care of myself. Like, I need someone who's active, because I'm very active.
I cannot picture Kyle letting himself go.
I mean, we both put some weight on. Like, it happens. You're tired after you have the baby, and, like, we look back at pictures, and he's like, oh my God, wow, I, like, gained some pregnancy weight too. But, like, it's the thing with him is that gaining any kind of weight, it totally affects his mental state. So it's like he's always on point, even if he can't be as physically active, like, due to an injury or anything like that. He's really good about his diet, because he'll like just zombie, tired and sluggish, and then any kind of stress, it's like, it's like the world is ending. And whereas when he's not, when he's eating clean and he's staying lean, and his mental clarity and peace and happiness is just way better.
So I've said before, I think I said it on Kyle's episode, and I told you that you're one of the most confident women that I know, and it's extremely admirable and something I aspire to, especially in the bedroom. And I remember asking you one time, like, how did you get this way? And you kind of just playfully laughed and said that you did 7 grams of mushrooms once, and it happened. Can you explain to us the difference, not only that experience made in you, but just that plant medicine has made in your life, and in self-love and in your marriage?
Yeah, that 7-gram day was at a beach, and it was just Kyle and I out in like Wilder State Park. It's just north of Santa Cruz, but it was perfect because there was never people out there, very secluded. And I just remember just sitting on the beach, and the wind was blowing, and my hair was blowing in the wind, and I just had this feeling of like, I'm a goddess. And it was like, I just like, and like getting in the water, and I was dancing, and it was like probably the first time that I felt like love for my feminine body. And I think having been an athlete at such a young age, there was just this like idea that you're like gotta be freaking shredded and no fat, no like, I don't want to pinch anything. And I think that was the first time that I really felt, because even like when I was in the UFC and I was curvy, I still felt like I felt like I wanted to be more shredded, and I didn't want like big giant boobs, and I cared more about like that really lean like marathon runner body, which like now I'm like, oh thank God. But also just working in that industry also helped me like appreciate the feminine body, even though I still had a really hard time. But that mushroom day, I just like embodied. It was like I just channeled what it was to be feminine and loving my body and being okay with dimples. Like every woman has some more than others, but it's like, and then when you're with a man like Kyle and Christian who love it, who like to squeeze it and make it all rolly and dimply, and they're like, I love that, and you're like, okay, like I can't, or I'm not gonna be like, ew, don't do that. Like if you genuinely, and even like the guy that we're Eskimo sisters with, like he used to like pinch on my arm here, and he was like I like this, like really? just like being around guys that just like that would make the squishy feel like, it just changed my thought process of like, oh, like it's not, we think feminine. More of like the world, and like, oh, this is what beautiful is, and like we see like the airbrushed everything, we think that's what men like, but really they just, like when you hold a baby, don't you just like squish the baby's like fat thighs and its other skin's all like soft, and like that's the same way men are. They like our squishy bits, and
our squishy bits.
Our bits, just like that's why they love boobs and butts. Like, so knowing they like it, but more than that, it was just like channeling like what it was to be feminine and loving my woman's body.
That was how I felt the first time I was Fox in Ceremony.
Yeah.
Just feeling the soft fur and like the playful tail. And,
and like, and the other thing is that like confidence, how you carry yourself, how you turn it on in the bedroom or lay down and show them your butthole, like just like having this confidence of things, like just knowing like it's hot and it's sexy when you're confident. So knowing, especially in the bedroom, knowing that there's no
I don't know
limit.
that showing my butthole is going to make me feel more confident.
I'm trying to get to a place in my mind where that's going to ever be like, I'm stoked to do that.
They love it. They love that weird, like, gross. Boys are gross. They are. You just gotta know that and go with it.
How is my husband in the room? He's not even flinching.
He's Google searching butthole pose.
So then how do you, if you were to define beauty and self-esteem, then to you it would be being able to unlock that confidence?
Just confidence and self-love, and just like loving your unique self and saying, I am one of a kind. I'm the only one that looks like me. I'm the only one that like, so like your teeth. I fucking love your teeth. Like I love when people have a unique, like I have a friend who has a bigger nose, and she's always, I'm like, I love your nose. I love those unique features on a person. But and then like when it comes to women doing so much plastic surgery to where it's changing their entire face, and you look at like an old photo and a new photo, it's like it almost has a similar, everyone kind of is like looking the same.
Yeah.
So like loving your unique face and then perfecting you, making you the best version of you, and knowing you're beautiful, you're unique, and that's confidence, you know, just loving yourself. And then in the bedroom, there shouldn't be any rules. You shouldn't be insecure about any of it. It should be whatever, whatever I'm pleasing. Like, in some girl, like I know some girls that she like broke up with this guy because he liked his nipples getting sucked, and she thought it was a feminine thing, and it was like, oh, this guy's feminine because he wants his nipples sucked. And I was like, well, Kyle likes his nipples
He
being sucked. And like, how is there a difference between my nipples and his nipples? They're sensitive. It's an erogenous zone. Just like buttholes. If people don't like their butthole getting licked, they haven't had their butthole licked because it's amazing. And guys also like their buttholes licked.
While we were having sex.
She did? And he liked it, didn't he?
Daisy is her dog.
Guys. Your other sister? Yeah. Is that your other one?
But it did. It turned him on.
Daisy is Jade's
I'm telling you. It's like, it's...
listening. Like,
was she just like in there watching?
Can't
in the
such
same
a
room
pervert. If we put her outside the room, she cries, and then if we put her in her kennel so that she'll be quiet, she's just like eyes against the cage.
Over her. Bubba wants nothing to do with it. But like if Walla
when
comes
I'm
in
by
the room, he's like,
myself,
I'm gonna go over there and like.
Well, when I'm by myself, I can be a little loud, and that Daisy wants nothing to do with. She's like, you're disgusting. Yeah. But if there's a man, she's like, oh my god, I love this. Yeah, mother.
Oh my.
It looks like you're playing.
Wrestle time.
Yeah. So, not to depend too fully on plant medicine because it's not everyone's preferred method of growth. I know Mercedes and Tom Shadyac, they haven't done it, and they're, some of the most grounded, most mystical people that I know. But imagine you had never done it. What do you think your life would look like then?
Oh, I think completely different. I think I know I would still be dealing with eating disorders to a degree because even when I wasn't bulimic anymore, I still struggled like daily with like shame over like, oh, I shouldn't have eaten that, or if I ate and I was a little more full than was comfortable, then it was like, oh, like I would just like be like, oh god, I want to just go do this thing. But that was happening up until 2013.
Okay.
So like the actual acting out of bulimia was probably like 2011 is when I was like
but you were still
stopping,
mentally in
but
that
mentally it was like I would still starve myself because I dealt with anorexia in high school and then was introduced to bulimia in college. When I overeat, all I do is just puke a little bit of it up, and you're like, oh, that's not for me. And then you overeat, and you're like, maybe they got something there, and I don't want to feel this way. And just obviously, all of that is so locked into a control. A lot of that has to do with this, I feel out of control, and I'm trying to find my control. But 2011, but then like for years up until that first ceremony, it was still like laying in bed going through what I ate that day and what I am not okay. Now I'm gonna not eat tomorrow, or I'm gonna eat only salads for whatever, or I'm gonna run miles and miles and miles and not eat. Like so, it was like I was constantly in this like punish myself, torture over it, no balance. Was even though I was like, oh, I eat healthy. I did not eat healthy. I was eating a lot of junk food. I was eating a lot of sugar. I had a lot of sugar addiction. And then it was in a ceremony. I remember laying there and being like, I want to be done. I don't want this to control my life anymore. And that was my intention going in, was like, remove it. I believe it. I believe this can be completely removed. I will know how to be balanced. I'll know how to be healthy. I won't consume my thoughts. And I just remember as the visionary say, I was changing to snake. Well, I didn't know there were snakes at first, but these like squiggly lines were kind of far away and getting closer, and then these two snakes dove into my body and were just like eating it all away. And like I literally came out of that ceremony and like was just different. Like knew how to eat and stop, and everything just changed. I cut out the gluten. I completely cut sugar out of my diet, and I haven't struggled with it. Yeah, and even when I overeat and I'm like, oh, and my stomach's sticking out so far, and like Christian hates it because he's like, oh, like he feels like all of a sudden I'm fat now, and I'm like, you're not fat. Like you just ate food. You're a lean guy. I'm like, but like even when I just had that surgery and I put on like 7 pounds of water weight and bloating, and I was just like a whale, like laying on the couch with my stomach out. Like there wasn't this. In the past, I would have been like in a big t-shirt and trying to hide my body and like ashamed of it. But now it's like, okay, if I overindulged and I ate all that dessert, because we rarely do, but on a birthday, if we want to go foster or whatever we want, it's not an issue. And I know how like to bring in the balance again. Yeah.
Oh wow, where to go?
Well, we already asked about her number one tips in the bedroom, but we don't have her side of the story.
Yeah, so as we mentioned, you're in an open relationship now with Kyle, which I kind of want to get first off just how you guys got there, because I'm sure that took a bit of a journey to finally reach that point where you said yes. So maybe give us that story first off.
Okay, so we eloped, and our families were pretty like, why would you do that? We want a wedding. And so I was like, well, I've always wanted photos. If I want anything from a wedding, it's just a photo. So we just did this like mock wedding photo thing in Vegas with the family. And while we were driving there, he said, I want you to know, just because we got married, that this doesn't mean you can't like be with another person, or I want you to know you can have more experiences. This doesn't have to be it. And I could have been like, oh, you're so sweet. But I was like, fuck you. I see what you're doing here. You want to sleep with other people. I was very triggered by it. But in just talking about it, then I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like, oh, we go hook up with other people. But just in opening up the conversation, we had many more conversations like that. Then we both read Sex at Dawn and just continued the conversation. And really what I liked about it and what made me really start to shift and think like, yeah, and maybe we don't act on it, but I never want to control his life experience. When you think about like, this is our life in these beautiful bodies in this amazing time, which also very difficult time, but we live in the United States. We have all these freedoms, and I don't want to control his life experience. I want him at the end of his life to be like, man, I did it all. I did everything that I wanted to do, and have my support with it, and same for me. And so that was the biggest thing, was being like, I don't own you. I don't own anybody, and I don't want to own and dictate what you do. And we talked about it for probably like 4 years before we actually said, okay, we're open. And then even though then we were open, we then also had Bear. So it was like, oh, do we wait till the kids are grown up and out of the house? Like, how do we do this without it negatively affecting him? Because if he can only he can only gain. If he's not gaining in this, if we're gone and he's losing out, missing out on like dad being around or mom being around, that's not winning for him, then it doesn't feel like it's worth it. And so just kind of been talking about it, really, it went from looking like, go out and meet whoever. If you met somebody, you can hook up with them, and me being like, that doesn't work for me. I'm not into like the one night stands. I'm very sensitive to people's energy. So like that just doesn't, I don't like the way that, I don't care for that. I could have been with Kyle for the rest of my life and fine with it. But so like Bear winning, Bear gaining from it was everything. And then moving out here, being around Aubrey and Whitney and other people that do open relationship, we learned a lot of things we wouldn't do. And then it just kind of helped us navigate what it was that we wanted. And the more we kind of read about different styles, polyamory just seemed to be the best fit, because we both need connection in order to, sleep with somebody or do things. And so more than one love, more than one meaningful relationship, right. And then I had a girlfriend who was just asking me about it, and I was just like, oh, like the kind of woman I'd want him to be with would be a friend, because I would know she cares about me, she knows us, I trust her, like you, and just kind of pitched it, and then she was interested, and it happened, and it didn't end up lasting. We're still friends, but there was just, and that was because there was just realizing her need, like the things that she needed in her life, he couldn't give her that because he already has a family, and Christian works because he's around all the time. So it's
Christian,
like Christian's my boyfriend, and I met him at On It. Yeah, the first time I ever saw him, though, I thought he uncle. Yeah, also. For sure.
He just fit right in.
The first night he came over to just hang out with me, and Bear, I was going out with Aubrey and everybody. He laid in bed with me and Bear and read books and helped me put Bear to sleep. And then it was like literally that week that followed, he was like already wrestling, and Bear loved him, and just a great uncle.
Kids are so intuitive. The guy that I dated in March, the kids, they didn't want to play with them. They were like, why are you here? And then this recent guy, it's the very first time they were like, I love you. They literally said it out loud. I love you. Do you want to sleep over? So they're so intuitive.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of people come around, and Bear really connects to some, and then other ones he's just like.
He told me I was his best friend yesterday, just so you
know. He's a character. I'll tell you some funny stories later. But with Christian, I honestly didn't think. I really thought like, man, I don't know that I'm ever going to find anybody. I'm married. My husband's a big ass ex-UFC fighter. I've got a kid. Like,
I know for me, also with like, you know, most of my girlfriends have a crush on Kyle, and so a lot of times when they find out y'all are open, they're like, what for? She has Kyle. Like, so to me, it's like, it's also like, who else are you gonna want, you know? Meet Christian, and it's a really nice.
And we
balance.
also build up these stories, like in our heads, we think about all the things that we think are negative, which someone else might find completely positive.
Yeah.
You know, like yeah, you're a mom of an amazing child, you know, you have a husband who's really open-minded, and you have these things that you think are your obstacles or for finding another partner, but they're actually like a benefit.
And Kyle, his ability to work on himself and face all of his fears and everything, because when we started, and he had his girlfriend first, all of us thought, because of Kyle having all these visions all the time of like, we need to be open, I think we need to be open, and me being like, all right, fine. And he just had no idea what it felt like, and so there was a period where it was like, I feel like you don't understand what I'm going through at all. I feel like I don't feel like I'm allowed to have these feelings just because I agreed to this. I don't feel like I'm allowed to. And so it's just funny that their relationship ended, and then I was like, oh, I found this guy, and he's awesome, and he's like, yeah, sure did, go ahead, yeah, I'm fine with it. I mean, if you guys want to sleep together tonight, that's like your call, whatever you want to do, I support it.
Bye.
Oh, I'm gonna go buy condoms.
And he told us the condoms on the show.
He's like, I didn't know which one to get, and so I bought both.
He has a bigger than me. I'm fine with that too. It's no big deal. I'm fine
Go
with
have fun.
Yeah.
And then the thing that a lot of and then me being like, oh yeah, I'm totally gonna fuck this guy tonight. And for Kyle, like knowing that could happen, but also having to be like, oh man, you do want to fuck somebody else. Like I was thinking maybe you wouldn't, and okay, but you do, and you did, and you want to do it again.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's really not for everybody, and it really does depend on who the additional person is, because I was around for the girlfriend, and I was around before I opened, and then I was around for the girlfriend, and then I'm around for Christian, and I've also been around other open relationships where the jealousy is just rampant, and then it's really interesting. It really, with y'all, I will go to the pool and I'll watch Kyle and Christian like tickle each other till they're almost crying, you know, and so it's so playful, and there is just so much more love, and it is what it's meant to be, but it really does not work for everybody.
No.
So it's
not what we're preaching by any means.
No, it's like you could have 5 roommates and they're all your best friends, and then you move in with one person and you're at each other's necks. It's like it just has to be the right fit.
Yeah.
And you guys have found it.
So what do you think was like the breaking point for that to culminate, like for especially for Kyle and Christian to be like, okay, we can do this, you know, or Kyle especially, right?
Yeah.
To accept that as part of his life now.
Kyle was very open to it, especially because he'd had it first, and then all of a sudden realizing like, oh shit, okay, Natasha going through all this and all the pain and the fear and all of that. Now I know what it feels like, but also on my end, making sure he's reassured of like this open, me and Christian doesn't happen without you. Like, I'm going to be with you for the rest of my life. There's nothing that will change that. But the thing that really, it was my birthday, honestly, our threesome, our first
tell
threesome.
the story, because we don't have your...
Let's set the stage, because we did...
We're running out of time, and we haven't gotten to that.
It was to me, it's been my fantasy of having 2 men, and also because even though it was like, oh, we're doing this, and everyone's so comfortable, there was still like, if I wanted to kiss Christian or be, you know, like show any kind of like intimacy or love, there was still this like, oh, I don't want to like do it in front of him, and so you're just like kissing around the corner and then like avoiding it. So it's like, maybe if we just
go straight in,
everybody's naked, everybody's like, they can see, and plus like Kyle always had a fantasy about like someone else sleeping with me. He's not a cuck, but he just likes my pleasure. So like if I'm being pleasured, it turns him on, and both him and Christian, like to them, they're like, it's like watching a porn. Like you get to see like what Natasha, like both of them, like I get to see what you look like in this position, you know, while someone else is doing it. But I was excited, but I was very nervous that somebody would get uncomfortable and I would feel it, and then it would like throw me off. But everybody was very comfortable.
So you asked her this for your birthday.
Yes. So my birthday's Valentine's Day.
Okay.
I never go out for my birthday because it's packed everywhere. It's
Mhm.
expensive to travel.
You're like, this is the first year I'm in an open relationship and I have a boyfriend.
Yeah.
And we're gonna try this thing, and everyone's on board with doing. Essentially, is what the end goal was, but a threesome with including double penetration.
Yeah.
And we already got Kyle's side of the story. Go back and listen to that because that's interesting. But we need to know the details from your side as far as, I mean, it's such a different experience. First of all, you're like the woman dictating, what's going to happen here and what you're okay with and whatever else. So I don't know, whatever you want to get into.
So they had the idea of putting me on the massage table and giving me a forehand massage. And it was definitely, because we've done threesomes again since then, but like it's very much they're in control, but I'm also making I'm also like switching to here or switching to that and making sure
everyone's getting fair.
Yeah, but when it came to the double penetration, we got great advice from the Ellis's. Yeah, when we went on their show, which that show was pretty ridiculous. Yeah. We were not expecting to do that on live air. We were not told that was going to happen. I don't know. I think the fact that it's really them. It's really Kyle and Christian. The fact that they're both comfortable and their goal is just to please me. So like people are like, ew, do your guys' like balls touch or your touch? And it's like they're confident men, and that doesn't freak them out or gross them out. It's like, no, we're doing this for her to please her. This is what she wants. So who cares if our wieners are really close to each other?
Like, if it was two girls, we wouldn't care if ours
Nobody
were touching.
cares.
Like, it's so weird.
But like that really bonded them.
Yeah.
Like on another level.
Yeah.
Just not being like
they literally wrestle in rainbow
all the
speedos.
time. Yeah.
Or maybe not rainbow, they're American flag or Texas.
Well, Christian doesn't really wear his that much. He's only done that when he's like home alone. Tan his upper thighs.
Oh
but
my
like
God,
we know the pool, he's not wearing it.
Tan.
Yeah.
So you just had this experience of basically being so loved on that these two people were willing to like put aside whatever things they might come across as homophobic, some action that they were worried about you maybe a long time ago, and put that all aside and do this thing that made you feel so loved. And I'm assuming that made you so turned on because not just one man is like throwing his cares to the wind for this, but also this other, two dudes that you really, really love.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with it.
So you and I both can be a little misread at times. Still figuring out what that is. I know in our very first episode, Maurice, you said sometimes I can be a little intense. So I think that might be the same with you. Like, especially I think because we don't hide who we are or what we're feeling. Like we can't pretend to be enjoying ourselves if we're not. And maybe we're like our toddlers. How have you handled not always fitting in with women around you and deciding to not take it personal?
That's a good question. I think growing up with sisters
Yeah.
and also growing up with I think the thing I loved about being homeschooled is that I feel like middle school is one of the hardest ages to go to school because they're just ruthless. But I feel like because I was homeschooled, by the time I got to high school, I really didn't understand cliques. And I didn't understand, cool people, not cool people. Like, people were just, if you were fun, if you were nice, if you, whatever, like, you're gothic, you're an athlete, you're student council, like, and I think because I was an athlete and I cared more about being an athlete than being cool or being pretty, like I never wore makeup in high school. I just very much cared more about like the friendship of it. And then also learning that some friendships you'll have these really deep, meaningful conversations and hold each other and cry or laugh and be goofy. And you can talk about all things. And then some friendships they're just fun. You can have a really good time and you don't go deep and you don't, really get to know that, but you can be like, when I'm around you, we can have fun and you're a lot of fun. Like
That's true.
are dancing the night away, you can have a good time. I don't need that from everybody. I have my friends, I have my relationships where we have that deeper
I remember
connection.
having a ceremony where it taught you to appreciate what each person brings. And I have seen it, like the situation I'm talking about, I've seen it make you sad, but the thing I liked is that it was almost instantly like, well, fuck that. And you made it, not in an ego way, but you made it about where they were at in life, as opposed to how they viewed you. And I guess the reason why it touched me so much is because I'm always like, even with time, like, is he mad at me? Am I annoying him? Like, I am always making it about me because I struggle with codependency.
Sorry, Jade. Stop saying sorry.
Because I struggle with codependency, it was so admirable that you were instantly like, well, that's where they're at in life, and it wasn't because of something you were putting out there. So that I like that.
Yeah, and just everybody's at different stages, and because I can sense people's energy and where they're at, even if they're like smiling, I can sense it, and it can be overwhelming. Like when I had my human design done, he was like, your aura is very piercing, so people can feel that, and if you walk up to someone like, is everything okay? And they're like, whoa, yeah, everything's fine. Like, then they can instantly like close off. So for me, what I got from all of that was like waiting for the invitation. So even if I'm sensing things, not pushing my way in, because I'm like, no, I care about you. I want to help you. I want to, what's going on? Just being like, okay, like, I love you. Just sending love, and then not taking it personally.
And I like what you said about each friend, appreciating what each friend brings. And I think each person brings out, like, I have friends that I'm silly as shit with, and then the other ones I'm like, we're super serious, everything's about growth, and then others where we're just kind of like, let's just watch Netflix and do nothing. And you know, and I think Mercedes is one of the few friends that brings out every single one of the, like, I think I have all of those with you.
I think because we've spent so much time, like, just, I mean, from morning to night, you know, over and over together, you kind of get all aspects, where it's, no one can deliver.
And my friendship with you is so unique because you're one of my only friends that is also a mom. And so you understand a part of me that others cannot empathize with. Like when others are like, just drink a Red Bull, or like, well, you signed up for this. It's like, you don't understand. And you get that side of me, and I don't have, besides Paige, I really don't have anyone else that does. So I like that you brought that up, appreciating what each friendship brings.
Yeah.
It's a nice way to look at it.
So we have a question from our Magic Mob. Shay on Instagram asks, how did you inform your kid, or have you, about your relationship style being polyamorous?
She's only 4 right now, but she
Bear's 4. And I guess we can start with that because she has more questions about.
Okay. So when we grew up with mom and dad, they didn't like, hey, so we're married and we love each other. You know, like, so like my opinion is, as he gets older and maybe is around his friends or people, he's not going to know the difference. And what I like is that he's going to grow up, ideally, with the idea that, like, what, my family loves each other and we're happy, and I have like how many aunties and uncles who look out for
like
me.
A white family adopting a black kid. Like, are you going to explain to him that?
You know, like, so there's just like, it's going to explain itself, and I'm sure he'll be like, so my friends think it's weird, and now I'm like, wait, hold on. So, you know, he's gonna, it's gonna come up. Yeah. But I don't think he's going to have any weirdness about it because of the fact that we all love each other and love him, and he's always got someone, you know.
Just special too.
Yeah, he's just a little ball of white light. But it definitely is something, like, any questions he has as he gets older. But I don't look at it as like any different. It's different, but like there's not like,
I feel like it's something definitely, like you're saying, middle school kids are
that's when it's gonna be when friends come over.
And about him, it's their, you know, they got some shame or some issue that they're harnessing, and they're just projecting onto other kids. But I mean, I would assume that there's going to be a point where someone's going to say something or try to shame him or whatever, and it's probably just a matter of giving him the tools now to,
like jujitsu,
like maybe not of a violent nature, but like a way to understand that what they're putting onto him is not for him. It's not about him. It's about their own shit that they're trying to deal with, which I'm sure you guys are going to do an amazing job with. Okay, so she also asks, are you open to having more children? If so, who of your lovers will be donating the sperm, and how would that all work?
Oh, great question. So, yes, we are currently working on number 2. We've been working on number 2 for a very long time. And then recently I just had a surgery where they removed a shit ton of endometriosis and stuff that I had no clue that I had.
Wow.
So that is also something that can keep you from getting pregnant. But, so that's removed. So we're hoping before Christmas, get it rocking and rolling. And everyone's trying.
So just whatever happens. Happens. So in that situation, if you, so you're pregnant, you have a baby, the baby is there, we're like, what does it look like?
Is it white or is it half Mexican?
And do you think it's going to be something that's sorted out at some point? Is it even important to you guys? Like, what do you think?
I think we'll know once we see the baby, but like this is something that a lot of people, like friends and people, have asked, and like, well, what about, you know, what everybody will think, and will it be accepted? Well, is that, like, how do you explain that? And really, to me, I'm like, I don't care. I stop and I think, what do I what am I okay with? What do I want? And if I'm okay with it, then I'm okay with it. Like I love the idea of tribe. I love the idea, like the fact that Christian is like dad to Bear and loves him and takes care of him and takes him to school sometimes, picks him up from school. You know, he's going to have him sleep over next week so that Kyle and I can have a night together. So it's like when you have that kind of support, like your babies are just really gonna grow up being lads. And Kyle has already been like, he's like, I just want more kids. And there's, regardless of whose dad it is, both of them, because I did get pregnant recently and had a miscarriage, but in that 4 weeks that I was pregnant, it was kind of like, well, like you were home for the first half of my ovulation and then you left on a trip. So it really was like but everybody was excited and everybody was okay with it, and it was like it was crazy. It's crazy how tired you get. I forgot how tired you get in pregnancy. I was like, I am like how I was like fluffing my pillows and bringing me teas, and I was like, wow, this is gonna be a good pregnancy. I got 2. Yeah.
You have so much energy, and because there are no men in my home, I'm perpetually tired. So when you were pregnant and finally tired with me, I was like, oh, thank God.
Stand there like the ginger chew. Through a bag a day.
Oh, I'm not having to keep up with it anymore.
Like, and now I can't drink coffee. It's like cold turkey, no more coffee. Yeah.
So, you know, we do pick pick your poisons. This is from Ross. Would you rather accidentally like a 2-year-old photo of your significant other's ex whom you were in the middle of Facebook stalking, or accidentally send a sext to your mom? I have recently experienced both of these.
Okay, hold on. Read the first one. The 2-year-old what?
Would you rather accidentally like a 2-year-old photo of your significant other's ex,
like from
whom you were just in the middle of Facebook stalking? So kind of what you watch me do sometimes. Or accidentally send a sext to your mom.
Accidentally send a sext to my mom.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because she sends sex to me before on accident.
What? Like, you're just straight stalker mode if you like.
So here's the thing though. Sometimes when I'm stalking someone, I'll watch their stories, and my friends are like, they can see that you do that. Yeah. And I'm like, well, what are they gonna do? If they tell him, then I know they're in his life, and I figured out what I was trying to find out.
Oh.
So what? If they don't tell him, then they think I'm just a random girl. Like, I don't care if I'm watching their stories and it shows them. Am I wrong?
I feel like my mom knows I'm married.
Yeah.
Like, so
I don't
like
want to like
sending
it.
sex isn't a big deal to me. And she would be super offended because my sexts are disgusting. So
are my
she would be
mother's.
like, what? But like, I'm like, married. I'm allowed to write that stuff. Like gross things like that.
You have to give me some bullet points for those.
Now, I wouldn't want to send like a photo sext. Like some of my photos. That would be a huge like.
Oh,
sorry. I'm so sorry, Mom.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, like I did both. That sucks.
I think I'd rather the liking of the thing. I feel like that's not a big deal. I'm like,
well, you can unlike it real quick. I just don't want him to see the like.
I also just don't fucking care about him anymore. It's my ex.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like,
it's Chris's ex. It's not your ex's ex.
Oh, okay, wait. If it's his ex, I don't give a fuck about her especially.
See, I kind of feel that way too. Because if she tells him, then
I super don't give a fuck about
And it's kind of like, what's like her mind would probably be like, what's she?
I'd be like liking your photo. I'm gonna be like, go ahead and check out my page.
Yeah.
I kind of rather that too, because I kind of already am doing. I don't know why I stalk. I think it's so, I've told you both, it's like so easy and nice that I'm just like looking for something. I'm like, well, let me see this and let me see that, because I'm like trying to get stressed because I'm trying to not addicted to stress. So I still rather that one.
All I know is I do not want, it's my mom sending a sext or me sending a sext.
You sending your mom a sext.
Okay, because you said your mom sent you a sext and I was like, good Lord, no. But if I sent one accidentally to my mom, I would be like, I was texting something to Jade for the podcast, and she'd believe me.
Yeah, okay. I keep changing my mind. I do that. My mom, when she texted me, said, whoops, that was something I was forwarding to my lawyer from a man who's been harassing me.
Yeah, right.
At like 3 a.m. Whoops. All right, so you also know that we end the show with a few short questions.
Yes, and wait, I was going to say, didn't you have something about your mom? We were going to, I don't know.
Oh yeah, my mom, after Kyle's episode, said that at a wedding, I already told you this, I think, at a wedding, someone came up to her and was like, did you see your daughter's video about the penetration?
Oh God.
And then your mom's like, it's all over the internet.
It's all over the internet.
Yeah.
You guys are living in adultery. Everybody knows.
Sinners. All right. If you could hug your younger self right now, what would you say?
Ooh, my younger self. I would say, that's a good question. There's so many things that I would say. I think I would just say, love yourself is so basic, but do what you want because God is love and it's unconditional.
Yeah, you had a rocky time separating from whatever church went when you were younger, right?
Yeah, big time. The feeling, like, and I remember being young and reading the Bible and being like, this doesn't make sense. This kind of cancels this out. I love you unconditionally. But then
I used to whisper things so that God couldn't hear. And I had a little area that I thought he couldn't see me where I'd go.
What'd you say?
I know. If you could have the whole world read one book, which would it be?
The Untethered Soul.
I have it, but I have not read it.
I need to read it again. I read it twice, and I don't know, of all the books, it doesn't, that are in that realm. I know some people, they're like, it changed my life, and I get that it's a really great book for the direction it's going, but it's not the one that resonates the most for me. But yeah, I think that
I think I'll love it. I just need to read it.
It's so, A New Earth is like one of the greatest books ever. To me, The Untethered Soul is like, because A New Earth is a very hard read for a lot of people. So it's like, it's such a similar message, but just kind of dumbed down version. But it's just an easier way of like going into all that stuff.
Woo, or Eckhart Tolle has like a way of.
And then if you're trying to listen to him on Audible, he's
oh my god,
soothing. Yeah,
for sure.
3 times the speed. It's just like normal.
If you could whisper one phrase to everyone on the planet, what would it be?
We're all in this together. We're all on this one planet together. So let's take care of our planet. Let's take care of each other. Come together. But yeah, we're all in this together.
Did that feel like? Did you feel alone a lot younger?
No, I don't. No, I didn't ever feel alone. But I just feel like now seeing so much war and hate and like mine and but it's like we're literally on this planet together, humans, and we're destroying it. This is our one planet. We don't even have a backup planet yet. So why we're hurting this thing? Yeah, we're looking. But we have all the resources. We have enough of everything, and people shouldn't be starving, and they shouldn't be dying of thirst. And like, we have the resources, we have the money to make life great for everybody. So just kind of how I feel. And then as a mother, you're like, God, what is the world gonna look like when my kids have kids or are grown up? Like.
And you're building your own tribe,
vote.
so
2020.
Please vote.
Now that you've interviewed her, can you answer the question you asked me? Do you feel like you can answer it for yourself? The question you asked me in the beginning that I felt like blindsided by a little bit, so I was like, wait, what? Can you say it again?
What do you want me to answer?
Do you have an answer for yourself now that you've interviewed her?
Do you feel like
now you're feeling how
I feel a connection to you, though. I'm confused to what
I think it's the question when you asked her what was like, drew her, or what was our connecting.
Oh, okay. Can I understand what drew you and her together?
Yes.
Your ability to accept anyone how they come, and your ability to be open to anyone who will allow that information to spill into, essentially. You're just open, you're just generally open. So I think those two things are like hand in hand. You're literally like, Natasha's like with her hands open, like, I'll take you, and you're like, I have something to give you.
I do feel like our friendship was like, it seemed like it was being prepared by people for a long time. It seemed like people trying to bring us together, and then us getting pregnant at the same time, and then Aubrey bringing you to Austin where I live. It was like kind of cool that like all these other people were like unknowingly bringing us together, so that's kind of cool.
And our babies, each other,
since they were
best friends.
So
maybe that was a part of it too.
Yeah, they probably had a soul agreement. So it's like all these people unknowingly bringing us together, which is really
apparently
cool.
Mommy number 2.
Oh yeah, I have 2 moms.
Bear's like, I have 2 dads, and how many mother? I have a million aunties and uncles.
Yeah. All right. Well, where can people find you online?
I'm pretty much just active on my Instagram, so
Keto Cookbook.
And you are now doing a regular show with Kyle on his show.
Yeah, we'll be doing probably once a month. We'll do a Q&A.
Yeah.
Just because we both get a lot of questions on like parenting, diet, relationships, psychedelics, just kind of all things. And so it was literally, he was going to have me on, and I was like, well, maybe we should ask people if they have any questions for us. And it was like 15 minutes before the podcast was going to start, and it was like just like 100 and something on his page, and then like 80 something on mine. And so that's when he was like, well, let's do another podcast tomorrow and just do Q&A.
Cool.
So I think he wants to start doing that like a once a month thing.
Like a bonus.
I like it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yay.
Thank you so much.
Thank
for
you.
that. Glad to
Super
finally
fun.
do this in person.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I know you by now, but I know you. Thanks for being on.
Thank you, ladies.
All right. So Natasha just got off.
I like her. I see why you like her so much. She's not only beautiful in outside, but inside as well.
Yeah, I was excited for you to meet her.
Yeah, smart cookie.
Yeah, lots of magic.
So what do you got for magic, speaking of which?
Yeah, so one of my favorite Instagram accounts is Rising Woman, and they shared some words from someone, I don't know how to pronounce her name, but it's along the lines of Shalinayana with Evolving Man, who I want to have both of them. I think it's her and her partner. I want to have them both on the show, and this magic trick, you'll see why. So basically, if healthy love wasn't modeled for us as young children, we have to learn to create it as adults. We all know this, especially if you're listening to the show, you've probably heard us talk about that. But they say that before age 3, we've already begun forming millions of connections in our brain, body, and nervous system. And, it's a bit like a computer. And many of us are operating on a very old program, and we might not be aware of it, but it can be updated and even rewired. We learn what's safe and what's not safe in that first environment. We take our emotional cues from those caretakers, but we also take on their stress, their pain, their shame, and their self-esteem. And it makes complete sense that for many of us, relationships feel really challenging as adults. It might even seem that we're okay until we get into relationships where suddenly things feel more intense and volatile internally. So many of us have buried old hurts and developed defensive coping mechanisms to adapt to our environment. And that can be a beautiful thing. That's how we, have protected ourselves. But in order to thrive in loving relationships as mature adults, there is often upgrading that needs to be done in terms of how we relate to ourselves, to our partners, and especially in conflict. So in adult relationships, many of us are still operating from that emotional position that, I spoke of in the beginning of this, but, that we were in as very young children. And we might expect our partner to meet those needs that weren't met when we were little. We all know this, but we might have walls and defensive patterns that are blinding us from our own work to be done in the relationship, or be carrying forward learned behaviors that no longer serve our well-being at this time. And this isn't something for us to judge ourselves over or to be discouraged over, because now we feel like there's so much work to be done. But these relationships are the place where it all comes out into the open. So this is such a great opportunity for healing. However, this knowledge can surely help, bring more compassion to ourselves at the same time, and to our partners as we learn to relate to them and allow them to relate to us. So my magic trick is for you to, having all this in your head, I invite you to go to the root of where these patterns started. And, that requires that you take an honest journey into your history. So I want you to listen to these questions, and either, if you're into journaling, write down your answers, or just answer them as they come along. You can pause, answer it, and move on to the next question. So the questions are: what did you learn about keeping secrets? This is as a child. What did you learn about telling the truth? What did you learn about expressing yourself? What did you learn about emotion, intimacy, and connection? What did you learn about safe touch? So those are the questions. And learning how to love consciously is a beautiful journey. So as you answer those, remember to just take deep breaths, be gentle with yourself, and remember that it's never too late to learn, heal, and grow.
I love it.
I know. That's why I want to have him on the show.
Yes. I already just you asking the questions with a little bit of space to even, start percolating on the answers. I'm going, oh shit, I need to sit with that. Definitely journal that.
Yeah.
Even just that. What was the first one? Was how'd you learn to keep secrets, or what'd you learn about secrets?
Yeah.
Man, I've told you before that I'm like the harborer of other people's secrets. Like, people come, they tell me their secrets, like deepest, darkest secrets. And there's something that happens in my brain where I just let
forget it.
I forget it almost immediately. And then the only way it comes back into my brain is if they remind me, oh yeah, remember that thing I told you? And I'll say no. And they'll say, here's what it was. And I'll go, oh yeah, you did tell me that. I literally couldn't recall it for the life of me. And I definitely think that is tied to the fact that my mom specifically, when I was young, told me that I should never write things down that I don't want read. So any secrets, like keeping a diary, for instance. So any secrets should be essentially never held on to. You know what I mean? Never in a permanent way. And so it's served me well in some ways, but also it's caused me to not journal until I was late into my 20s.
Yeah.
which I
Yeah.
coulda
I
used
don't
a lot
like
of
that advice, but I love your mom. So
No,
I know she
yeah.
was coming from a good place.
No, it's not. I'm not giving it as advice. I'm saying this is something coming up in me just from you asking this question during a
Yeah.
magic, so that's
Yeah.
cool. It's something I got to definitely sit down and write all those out. I love that. Thanks.
Yeah. What's yours?
So my magic today is my trick is very simple, very quick, and I hope all of you can kind of turn it into a little mini mantra for yourselves. And that is, instead of asking who has the time, ask who has the time not to. We know life is short, no matter what age you're at, nothing's ever promised, and it is much too short to be glorifying busy the way that we do. So I'd invite you to find the time to do the things you'll regret not doing from your deathbed head, as we call it here on the show, from that mindset you will have one day when you are laying on your deathbed, if that is the way you go, slowly.
Yeah.
You will look back and say, damn it, I should have taken the time to do whatever. Those are the things that I hope you will find time to do right away, because
We
tomorrow.
definitely do glorify busy. And I think it's the stress addiction that we talk about in
Yep.
in so many of our episodes with Sylvie, with Dr. Jess. And I heard a quote that stuck with me, and it glorifies busy. It says, if you want something done, give it to a busy person, because they're the ones that get things done.
Busy doing, not busy being.
Right. But we really do. We glorify busy.
Absolutely. So guys, stop asking who has the time, because we all do that. Who has the time to do that? Who has the time to do this? And instead, who has the time?
I say that about myself. Yeah. Exactly. All right, Magic Mobbers. Thank you so much for tuning in and taking this journey with us. If this episode held some magic for you, please share it with your friends and family. This would mean so much to us. And don't forget to join us on our Instagram page at The Magic Hour and let us know what your favorite episodes have been so far. We appreciate all your feedback and want to know what's lighting you up.
Go listen to some of our past episodes in our podcast library now. We'll meet you there. Until then,
Be a light.